welcome to the podcast, Lance.
Hey.
Thank you for coming out. So what I used to do in the past was, in the past 10 videos or so, I've been introducing everybody, telling them about their business. And what I've noticed is I end up messing the names up somehow. And I don't know, I know you're in the body shop world. And I know you just bought Gator Boats.
Correct.
So I know Gator Boats, but I don't know the name of all your shops. So maybe you can help us out with that. And then maybe anything else that you're into, just kind of let everyone know.
Sure. The other shops that I've got, I'm in the body shop business as well. That was really my kind of where I started. First business that I owned. I've got a partner, Tim Davis, and we've been in business about going on 22 years.
And what's that body shop?
It's called Certified Collision Center. Our main shop's in St. Clair, and right there on Highway 44 at the exit. We've been at that location for about 12 years now, I think, something like that.
Was that your first body shop?
No, the first one was at a dealership in Pacific, Missouri. Tim had been employed there at the Dodge dealership, and they had a body shop, and the guy that owned the dealership was having issues with the body shop at the time, just going through managers, and he asked Tim if he would come back, and he said, well, I might, but I'd like to come back maybe with a partner, and we start our own shop, and we just lease the spots from you.
Yeah.
So that's really how I got in business, in the body shop business, was me and my best friend just decided, hey, we want to try to do it on our own instead of working other places and making money for other people. So
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so you were doing body work prior to doing that, right?
Yeah, really. I'm not native from here necessarily. I moved up here from Florida after I graduated high school around 86 at the time. And met my wife not long after that. My wife, Shelly, she's from St. Clair area. I met her right after I moved up here. Not too long.
What pulled you to Missouri from Florida?
From Florida, I came up here to go to school to Rolla at
S&T.
Yeah, S&T. Absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me.
And
ended up in...
so you were going to be an engineer?
Yeah, that
the
was the
plan?
goal. But I literally hated the college, hated the town. I decided school just wasn't for me at that time. So pulled out of that, and I'd gotten a summer job at a body shop. Really
Doing what?
started off washing cars.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough cars to wash every day, so moved into helping the painter, prep stuff. And really, that's how I got into the business, was just by accident.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did too. I was a body man and painter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I started following you, because you had your shop and you were doing all this stuff. And it was me looking up as a young kid. That's kind of what I wanted. I was from 16 years old. When I turned 16, I bought my first car. Right. And then I wanted to make some money on the side after my job. So I sold my car. I bought a car that needed work. Didn't know how to do anything on it, but it was a, do you know what? Yeah, an Eagle Talon.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what those are?
Oh, yeah.
So I was 16 years old, and I had a little, just a grandma. It was an Acura Legend, 94 Acura Legend. That was my first car. And I had $3,000 in it. So I sold it, bought this Eagle Talon out of Maryland Heights, St. Louis, and it was crushed in on the right side, the quarter panel was smashed in, and they just needed a little bit of front end cleanup work. And so I was like, I could buy this. I seen the money in it. I was like, I could sell my car, buy it, fix it up. And so that's kind of where my journey started, and that's kind of where I found the passion for it. And I always liked being creative, so it filled that creative need, painting and blocking. It really is an art. I think it is.
It's more like sculpting. The body work part of it. But there's so many technical avenues there. Framework is really technical. Suspension work, man, when you get stuff that's really hit hard, you've got to do it right, because otherwise nothing else lines up on the car. The suspension doesn't. So it's really important to have trained people and know what you're doing with that stuff. But it's fun. It's like you said, it's an artwork. Yeah. And painting, that really, to me, was more my passion.
Me too.
Than the body shops. The body work side of it. I just really embraced painting. And if you want the honest truth, that's kind of what kept me in the boat world, was I just started painting boats. And I just fell in love with boats. And from there, I just started painting a bunch of them. And there's a shop in Union, Pro Body Works. Yep. Rodney Schwinker, good friend of mine. Been friends for a long time, 30 plus years probably. Back when I first started here, it was in Union, is where my first job was at, in a body shop.
Yeah.
And I think Rodney had just started his shop then. And years later, we still knew each other. And I was an insurance adjuster. And he had a bunch of boat work at the time that he still does a bunch of boat work. He paints a lot of the Gator stuff. But he was working on some bigger boats. Back then, they were called Black Thunder. And they're still a brand. But anyway, he called me. He's like, man, I've got a project of these little beetle bugs that I have to paint to look like a new character that some video game is going to be. It's called Pokemon or something like that.
Okay.
Ended up being Pokemon. And Nintendo had gotten him to make these little yellow Volkswagen bugs that had just come out, look like little Pokemon with tails off of them. We had to paint like eyes on them and like paint them yellow or blue or white or whatever. And he's like, man, I could really use some help. And I had a lot of free time in the afternoons and evenings, so I just started working over there with him, and that's really how I got into boat painting.
Now, was this before you had the place in Pacific?
Oh, way before, yeah.
This
was mid-'90s probably.
Okay, so when did you get the place in Pacific? Just trying to picture a timeline in my head.
Yeah, timeline. My first business we opened in the fall of 2000.
Okay.
2000.
Okay.
So this is probably 6 years prior to that. It was when I started painting boats with Rodney's help. I mean, he kind of cursed me. He taught me how to paint boats, which it's a
that's a crazy deal to have Nintendo to reach out to him.
Yeah, he has had a lot of success with that kind of stuff. He's got a great business over there.
How do people find him?
Graphics. You know, I think he really promoted himself well in the offshore powerboat world, and that's a small community. And I dove into it head first. My wife and I did. But if you get well known in a group like that, it's kind of a national thing. People find you.
Yeah.
You know, they hear about you. And
This
you
is
do
the
really
guy.
good work. You know, Rodney does excellent work. So people would come and find him. And he was doing all of, like Black Thunder was a big brand back in that time frame. So he was putting some paint jobs that nobody had ever seen on boats, you know, and it was just really cool. People would fly into a little, like Washington Airport and come over just to see their boat being painted.
That's cool.
Boats were made in Hannibal, so it was kind of a local market thing with offshore stuff. Midwest, we're blessed with a lot of offshore powerboat stuff. Lake of the Ozarks, MTI, Black Thunder's still a brand. You know, there's a lot of stuff here. But anyway, that's how I got into boat painting.
Yeah.
Was just really by another chance, you know, and from there it just kind of took off.
And so then, from there you bought your first shop in Pacific.
Yep.
And then where from there?
Man, the next thing was probably about 6 months after we opened that first one. I got a call from another friend of mine that was a service manager at a Honda dealership up in West County, and he's a local guy here. But anyway. Called and said, hey, our body shop's struggling. The owner of the dealership is interested in maybe talking to you about doing the same thing you're doing down there at that Dodge dealership. So went up, talked to him, and we've still got an office there, and that's 21 years ago.
Wow. You know? So when you're leasing these places, the body shop's already built.
Yeah.
Is there already a frame rack and a paint booth put in there?
Sometimes. It just depends. You know, my first two, yes, that was the case.
Because that's a big expense.
It's a huge expense. The third one we built ground up, and that
was where?
That was in Sullivan. It's no longer a shop even, but
What's the old building? Is the building still there?
We joined forces with a big dealership down there, West Brothers at the time, and we built a shop in Sullivan, about a 10,000 square foot location, and that was ground up. Put in a new booth, you know, bought new racks, blah blah blah. And that's expensive,
yes,
to do it that way. But you get all new facility that way. So if you're going to do it
for the next 20 years,
if you're going to do it and you've got the business to support it, do it. You know,
right?
That's a good way.
So what happened with Sullivan? I feel like Sullivan's a pretty good sized town.
You know, Sullivan hit a hard recession about 2007. Really, when the rest of the country started diving into the major recession that we went through as a nation. Sullivan had a couple hard hits. A lot of Sullivan's workforce worked at Chrysler, and the dealership that we were located at, a lot of the employees at Chrysler bought their cars there. You know, local dealership, Green Sheet. It was just a good mix of business. You know, folks made great money working at Chrysler. They bought a lot of cars because they got a good deal on the cars. So,
yeah, they get a discount, right?
yeah, they get a discount on it. So it just worked out great. Well, in '07, I think it was, whenever the Chrysler plant shut down, man, sales just went to nothing. And that really hurt the Sullivan market, in the auto market, I'll say for sure. So that, as a business owner, that was one of my first big, like, everything was a step up from then, and all of a sudden
Can we talk about that for a second?
Heck yeah.
So like, because I've never had to deal with nothing like that.
Oh yeah.
And I expect it. Like I've already told myself, there's going to be a time if you keep investing and keep going to new business.
Financial hard times will come.
Yeah. And so you see them coming. Clearly you can see them coming.
Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes you can. Hopefully, if you're paying attention, you can kind of watch as the market and everything changes.
Indicators.
Things start, indicators. What do you do? Like what? I mean, like as things are falling apart, you got all this investment stuff in. Do you just start? Do you start like? Is that because that's a big reason why I want to own real estate? Like I actually want to own the real estate instead of rent it because I build equity. Maybe I could refinance it. Maybe I could sell it. Maybe I could find a couple ways to get some money back to where I'm not so deep.
Having financial equity in your business location helps you grow because you have equity then that you are able to borrow off of to expand.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the name of the game. If you get to a point where you're growing, you need to expand, you need more equipment. You've got to have something to back that up with financially. So you can't go wrong.
More than just the
with
revenue
property.
that's coming in.
I'm a firm believer in property is probably the best investment out there. You know, it truly is.
I totally think so too.
Yeah.
It's not just the investment itself, but the capital that you get off the top of it.
Yep.
You can use it to leverage into your. That's how I've gotten a lot of the things I have. Is I've used the leverage from my rental properties and from my businesses to be able to buy something else.
Correct.
So what'd you do?
Man, you just at first shock sets in. You're like, oh my God, what's happening here? You know, and then once you kind of sit back and breathe, and are like, all right, what are we going to do now? And there's been a lot of sleepless nights through the years. 20-some years of business. You ride the ups and downs of that. You work through it. My best.
It's just what it is.
Yeah, you figure out. Okay, what's happening? What's going wrong? What can we do to fix it? If you can't fix it and it's going south, sometimes you're better off to cut the head off.
Yeah.
So
cut your losses.
Cut your losses. Sometimes. Other times, I mean, there's been times when I've thought, man, we should try to ride this out. And sometimes that's the right move. Sometimes it's not. You lose. Losing more money, or it turns around and you come through it. Sometimes you have to reinvent yourself too.
Change everything up.
That's a big part of, I think, a lot of people, a lot of companies through the real hard times, through the major depression that we saw there. A lot of people had to reinvent themselves, either by they lost their career. You worked at Chrysler, you lost your job. When you're 40 years old, you've got to figure out, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah. I've been working at the same place my entire life. Now I got to go do something completely different.
I had so many friends, that worked there. And, a lot of them used the incentives that Chrysler threw out to retrain them into different fields. But that's a tough decision. And
especially if you're like, maybe, sorry to cut you off, but maybe if you're only 5-10 years from retiring.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, do I want to even go back to school and try to learn something? Yep. That's a hard thing to choose to do, because you're not even going to be in that career field for that long.
Yeah,
I watched some guys locally. I grew up in Gerald, Missouri, and so it's a very small town. And I had some friends that I watched their dads that worked there. They got laid off, and they were in that same situation. They ended up just going to like a factory, just took a huge pay cut.
Yeah,
went to a factory. They got on had to do second and third shift because they're the new guy, and they just finished out their lives until retirement there.
Yeah.
It was kind of really sad to see. And it was sad to see for the whole families. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. We weren't the only ones that were going through that. I can tell you every one of my friends that was in business some way, somehow, had a lot of rough times there. I can tell you this, you learn because prior to that, man, things were rolling really well to the point of you were probably loose on fat, in your company. You learn to trim all that, You let go of all the stuff that you don't have to have just to keep that business alive. You've got to figure out, if you've got 4 or 5 businesses, this one's doing good, this one's not. How do we move money? Because there's tax implications to that. So it's a learning curve, and all I can tell you is you just work through it.
Yeah. So what'd you do in this situation? Did you sell off the building? Did you sell it to the Chrysler dealer?
It was a joint deal between us and West Brothers, to where we designed and built the facility. They owned it. So we had a 10-year lease there. We worked through the lease.
You got to design it, though.
What's that?
You got to design the body
shop?
shop?
A great shop.
That's shop. Cool.
The facility. And man, for the first 2 years we were there, it was awesome. But really, Chrysler shutting down hurt that market terribly. We dropped 50% in
whoa, 1
month. The lights went out.
That's insane.
But every dealership in America was struggling. I mean, really bad.
So you had a 10-year lease on it. So did you finish out the lease? Did you just close it down? You finished out the lease.
Finished out the lease, and we closed that office down.
And how much longer of the lease did you have? Did you have to do it for like another 5 years?
Oh, I think it was about 6 years after that went down that we struggled.
Did it pick back up a little bit though as time went on? No. So it was basically.
I had to figure out how to make it on 50% of what we were
eating funds.
Yeah.
So you use the funds from the other businesses to kind of keep you alive, and then
we tried to get it on. At that point, I knew I had a lease that I had to fulfill. So we figured out how to make it self-sustain as best as we could, and I had some folks that worked with me. I say not for me. I mean, they're partners in my mind. Just fought tooth and nail to keep the business alive, and we did what we had to do to just make it work. Every now and then I'd have to inject some money from another company, but we did what we had to, and it worked.
That's cool.
It was a good learning experience.
Yeah. And as a guy that used to work in a body shop, and to watch some body shops that were like that, and to see some morale, like as times go down, like the morale kind of goes down. So like that's kind of things I'm thinking about, like, just imagining what it could have been like to be in that situation in the shop at that time.
It's stressful.
I bet.
Very stressful, and it's painful to see it happening. Something that you've built and created, and then all of a sudden, it's failing. And for me, that's tough to see anything. If I'm going to put my heart and soul into something, I want it to succeed. And when it doesn't, they don't all work. And that's really hard to, as a new guy, a new entrepreneur trying to get into a business, to see what you've put all your heart and your soul and just worked your ass off to get there, and then it fails. That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah. And well, I think it's good. It's good to see that you actually finish the rest of the 6 years out. Because I do think there's two different types of people. The person that they're like, well, if I'm not making money, I'm not going to put the work in. Or the person that, they're going to still put the work in because they still want to be able to pay their employees, the manager, everybody that's working there. They still got to keep a job. Yeah. Even though you probably weren't making that much money, they still got to have a job. And some of them might not appreciate it the way they should have, but you could have just been like, screw it, I'll take the loss on it, sue me, we'll go to court, whatever, I can go bankrupt or whatever, and then everybody could have been out of a job.
True.
But you powered through, and I think that's what I would do too. At least I would like to think that's what I would do.
I think it's the right thing to do. But sometimes you can't. There's different reasons why folks shut businesses down.
Sure.
Sometimes you just have to. You can't make it through. I was fortunate enough; we somehow made it through it.
So after that, where'd you go? So now you're back down to 2 body shops.
Well, we had also bought one in St. Louis up by the airport by then.
By Lambert.
What's that?
Like by Lambert Airport?
Yeah, by Lambert.
Big shop? I feel like up there would be pretty big.
Medium-sized shop. I think we had probably 10 guys there, something like that. We got fortunate there. Again, we bought this shop because we had this goal in mind. We wanted to have a bunch of shops and then maybe sell out to a larger,
like
group.
A franchise.
A group,
some
kind. So this shop came available. Our paint company kind of said, hey, this shop might be available to buy. Privately owned shop. We ended up working a deal with the owner, bought the shop, The day we walked in, there was a 1965 Lincoln in the paint booth that was getting the quarter panel painted as a favor for the old guy that did a lot of towing around the area. It was a free job. And other than that, the next week was blank on the schedule. There was no work there.
Wow.
It was like,
So was it just poor management?
it was a guy that had owned, his dad had started the shop, and he just inherited it kind of, and had kind of let it run in the ground. Kind of
Yeah, you see that a lot when you get something given to you and you didn't have to work hard to get up to it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not that big a deal. When you got to work so hard just to get it, and you don't even know if it's going to work, you have some heart into that.
Yeah.
But
this guy was burned out too. I think at some point in time he really did. He was pretty passionate about it, but he burned out. So we bought it, and smaller shop, great group of guys that worked there, and we just kind of absorbed the guys that were there. And we were fortunate enough to have a lot of work at other stores at that point, to where I could shuttle work then to that. So I started moving work around.
So from like the West County shop, you moved it up there.
Yeah.
Because West County's not that far from probably where
Half
you're
an
at.
hour.
Half an hour.
I bought a transport trailer and a diesel truck. And
you physically hauled it over.
I was the transport guy sometimes.
Wow.
Again, you do whatever you have to do to
make it
keep
work.
keep that machine rolling.
Yeah.
But we would move cars back and forth. At one point, we even bought a rollback, and just had a rollback driver just moving cars all day long between
Full-time job doing that.
We were fortunate enough there at that store to, again, through networking, like you were talking about, networking is really important. Through a friend of a friend, we started talking to a guy that worked at Enterprise, and a car came into our shop. Really, it was the biggest thing. And this guy showed up, and he was the head of damages for Enterprise Leasing. And by the end of an hour's worth of conversation, he was like, "Man, would you guys be interested in doing any work for us?" And we're like, "Heck yeah, we've got a shop in North St. Louis, or up by the airport." And he's like, "Really? That's by our airport location. That's our biggest location." And he's like, "We'll talk." So we didn't really think much about it. And shortly thereafter, he's like, "Hey, let's get you going. Here's the deal. We're going to start sending cars to you." All of a sudden, we were doing a lot of work for Enterprise Leasing, and that turned into, we got one office, then another, and then by the end of the time that we were up there, man, at any given time.
You're talking, when you say offices, you're talking about the Enterprise offices.
Enterprise offices,
They were just be like, "This is our guy.
Yeah.
Send it to Lance."
Yeah, like literally, I think we had most of the Enterprise offices in St. Louis. One of our shops was doing. And that just turned into a huge part of our business. Probably 20% of our business turned into Enterprise leasing work, just out of,
Just
good
random
relationship
networking,
with a
talking
guy,
with people. Yeah.
So it's weird how business comes to you when you have a business.
When you try and you put a little effort in. The power of networking is amazing. And that's a lot of people ask me, like the same thing you did when you came in today. You're like, "So what's the point of this podcast? Like, why are you doing it? Why are you wasting time on it?" Because I don't make any money on it. Maybe one day. Yeah. And I tell everyone, like and subscribe. So if you're watching, like and subscribe, people. Come on, it helps me grow.
Now, you've got to have so many people watch you on YouTube, right?
I have to have 4,000 watch hours, which is pretty easy for me to accomplish. Because I do this. I do some other commentary. I do just a bunch of YouTube stuff. I enjoy it. It's fun to me. The branding and marketing, if I could just go into business and branding and marketing for my own businesses, I'd love it because I have a blast doing it. Yeah. But the power of marketing is I just today, I've always wanted to own billboards. I rent a billboard. I had called that guy. I had sent a little feeler out there, and I said, "Hey, man, if you're ever interested in selling this billboard, I'd love to buy it." And he's like, "I'll think about it." Well, a month or two went by, never said nothing. Sent him a message. It was 8:30 at night last night. I was driving it home, and I was like, "Man, I'd love to have that. I'd love to have it." So I'm like, I'm going to send him a message. And I came up with a number, and I was like, "Hey, man, I got this much cash. Are you interested in selling? Is this much cash enough for us to talk?" Sent me an email right back. I said, "Yeah, my wife's been on to me about selling it. I'll get a hold of you tomorrow. I'll get in touch with you with some numbers tomorrow." So it sounded promising. Got a hold of him today. I told him, "If you got anything else, let me know. I'm interested. I really want to get in this realm." and talked to him. And he said, hey, there's also this other person in the community that also has something to probably be interested in selling. You want their number? Try calling them. So I was like, absolutely. So I called him, and the guy, I answered, and I said, hey, is this, his name's Rich. And I was like, do you still have the billboards? And he's like, yeah, you want to buy them? I said, yes, I do. And basically offered me like a $500,000 deal on billboards.
Wow.
And it's just like the power of not only networking, but just cold calling and reaching out and talking to some people and just trying. Because a lot of people are too scared to even try. But just some email I sent at 8:30 last night unraveled into this big deal that I'm hoping I can make happen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you just never really know where you can go, where you can connect.
Again, businesses hit you out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, wow, this is another business.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you got North County, you got Enterprise coming to you.
Yeah.
So you're up to 3. Well, this is your 4th shop, but you have 3 open right now at this point.
At that point, they were all open.
Yeah. Oh, even though there's one Sullivan.
Yeah. And then again, we had to recreate our shop at our West County store. Another dealership franchise bought it, and they needed more space for their service department. So our body shop was the only shop space they had. So we had to move off site. And so we went into scramble mode again. And I had probably 13, 14 guys there that I had to figure out what we were going to do with. So
I think, okay, so sorry, I think somehow I missed that right there.
Yeah.
You at your West County location basically told you, hey, your lease is up and you got to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you're just on the scramble to find a new body shop, a new shop to accommodate. For this.
So we went into scramble mode a couple of different ways. Like we went into scramble mode to try and convince them to let us at least keep an office there. And when they started looking at how many parts we bought, the volume of parts that we bought through them, they were like, well, maybe this is a good idea. We somehow keep a body shop.
Why would they want to kick you out?
They were buying the location, and Honda required them to have so many service stalls, and they couldn't build down, they couldn't add on. So that was their only option. So it wasn't that they wanted us gone, they just needed our space. And so we worked out a deal to where we kept our complete office and everything there. And we went and leased another building that just happened to be available. It was a body shop that had been repossessed, hard times. This was right in the midst of the Depression. A guy had lost this shop over off of Highway 30, which was about 20 minutes away. So we ended up leasing a full body shop from just my bank president called me and said, hey, I've got a shop came back to me. You interested in it? And I'm like, I just might be.
Yeah.
So again, you recreate yourself. So we opened another shop and moved all of our equipment over there and scrambled to get in there, and then just started trucking
cars down there all
back
the time.
and forth. Yeah.
A lot of them probably figured out that you were down on Highway 30 and probably just went straight there too.
Some, a lot of folks did, but it just it was just one of those things we had to recreate ourselves.
Which was the better location, 30 or West County?
Well, the West County was awesome because it was right on site. So we ended up closing the other store. It was just too much headache, too much work.
Highway 30.
I found myself at that point with 5 locations scrambling around, and I wasn't able to focus on my business. I was more focused on just trying to keep things going at all 5 locations. So at some point, you got to know what your limitations are and
know your limit and stay in your lane.
Yeah. So we shut that one down. So we got down to 3 shops, and
so you shut down the one on Highway 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we shut down we kept our office, and we shut down the office in Sullivan about a year later. And that gave us our St. Clair location, our West County office, and our North store.
So did you buy the St. Clair building at this point?
Yeah, at that point we'd bought we leased from the Dodge dealership that we started on for 10 years. We had a 10-year lease on that. And then at the 9-year point, we started thinking, all right, we want to own our own place. So we started looking for a location and bought it prior to leasing it because we had to remodel it and redo it and add on that type of thing. So that's when we moved into our St. Clair location.
Yeah.
So.
And now has that been basically like your headquarters?
It is, yeah. That's really that's where I'm not necessarily from there, but I've been there since I was 16, 17 years old. My wife's family is from there, and my partner's from there. Tim Davis is his name.
So that's home.
That's our community. You know, we know everybody in town. You know, Tim's not necessarily the elected mayor, but he's almost the mayor of the town kind of guy, you know. So we just know everybody there. So that's home for us.
And because I've used to go to you guys' car show. I've been to your car show a few times.
Yeah.
Do you still have that?
You know, the show outgrew us. Our location, we had a very limited spot there, and I think we had it there for about 4 years, 5 years maybe. I don't even remember. And it literally, it was so fun that more cars started coming, and it was the first show of the season. Del Coakley, a real good friend of ours, it was his show first, and then he merged it with us. And then when we outgrew it, we ended up moving it uptown, and it kind of turned into St. Clair has a show downtown now.
Oh, cool.
You know, and
still
that's
do
kind of what it
burnouts?
turned out. They did last year. I don't know if they will this year or not, but yeah,
It's just one of those things. If they allow
it started out, we would do burnouts in front of our shop.
Yeah. But like now the ones in town, they probably do. It's the cops are probably there. They probably
they actually have a professional burnout pit. They do them in.
Oh, really?
Contests.
You can hook. Can you hook your car up to it, or is it all unhooked?
Yeah. It hooks you up, and you can't go anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some places do it both ways,
Oh,
and you started out not doing it like that. You know.
We started out outlaw, and you know, at that point, the sheriff's a pretty good friend of ours, and you know, he's like, yeah, just keep it under control, and everything's cool.
So you just turned the other cheek.
You know, it was just we wouldn't let anybody get out there that had been drinking or anything like that to burnouts. But that's kind of how the burnout started in front of our shop. As a matter of fact, at Gator, Randy Petsu that owned Gator at the time, at our first, I think it was our first or second car show, he had a gold Nova that he brought up there. And they got out in front of the shop and did a mean burnout, and then just left. And about 3/4 of the way up the hill, the burnout, the rubber caught on fire. And it was just like caught the whole thing on fire, and we got a good picture of that, and it's still at the we got it up on the wall at the shop up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good times
awesome.
those car shows were.
Yeah, I bet. I only went to one that I can remember, and it was probably one of the later ones when you guys were probably starting to close it down probably and change the location.
Yeah.
But I do remember everybody doing burnouts there, and when I started out doing auto body, you know, I'm 29 now. I was 21 when I started auto body. I remember going in your shop and seeing. I met Tim Dillon. That was his name, right?
Davis. Tim Davis.
Tim Davis. Yeah. And I remember seeing him in there. And I've known quite a few people that have gone over to your shop and worked over there before. Tim Cole did he work for you for a while?
You know, it's funny. I met Tim Cole through Pro Body Works up there in
he was painting boats.
Union. I had just kind of started helping, and we had to do, this is a good story. We had to do this boat for a guy, and he wanted it, he was putting turbine motors in this Black Thunder, and he wanted a big jet engine painted on the side of the boat, like right in the middle, and he wanted this, like these stripes coming into it, and then flames coming out the back of it, multicolored flames. And on the side of the engine, he brought us a Polaroid picture of himself, and he brought us a VCR tape of the movie The Terminator, and he wanted us to airbrush his head or his face on the side of this engine, and he wanted the robot part on one of it and his face on the other. And you know, Rodney was like, "Oh yeah, that's no problem." And you know, as the guy kind of left, he was like, "How the hell are we going to paint this guy's face on there?" You know? We'll figure it out. You know, again, we figured it out. And about that time, this younger guy came in, and Rodney came out. You know, he was like, "Oh my God, look at these drawings this guy's got." And this guy just walked in to interview with him, and he's like, "Can you paint this guy's head on this?" And Tim Cole is who it was. He was young. I don't know how old Tim was then, but he said, "Yeah, I can do that." And he said, I think he was working somewhere else at the time, maybe, but he's like, "I can come in tonight and work on it." And Rodney was like, "Yeah, cool." So he came in, and Tim started on it. And the next day I got there, and I walked in, and I mean, my mouth, like jaw dropped. It was like,
that good.
Holy crap, this guy's amazing. So Tim Cole is, in my opinion, the best airbrush artist.
I can believe it. I've seen some stuff that he did.
Yeah.
I met Tim, and when I started, it was technically my second body shop. My first body shop Well, I'm not even going to say the name of it, but it was at a used car dealership, and he had a little shop in the back, and you might even be able to tell me, like in your head, tell me what it is, but it had it was a used car lot. It had a little body shop in the back, but it was a single car garage. You pull in, it was full of junk, and then there was like a little bay to the right that had a garage door, and he just had a fan that blew the fumes out. It just straight outside. I worked there for 2 weeks, and it just absolutely was not for me. And on Friday, I just took a day off on Friday, and this was my 2 weeks in. I took a day off on Friday, and I went around to every body shop. And I was 2 weeks in the bodywork at this time, so I had basically no skills. And I had stopped in Sullivan. This is Dennis Wisman had Jerry Counts, and I stopped in and I said, I need a job. Do you guys need any body men? And I had my resume, and I was like, I'd love a job. And he's like, oh, actually, take that back. I went around everywhere, but I didn't go to Sullivan because I was like, I knew there was only one shop in Sullivan, and I was like, what's the chance that they're hiring? I had better luck if I went to Washington Union where there's multiple body shops. My last one was at Jerry's in Union off the highway there, and off of 47, and Jerry's brother was Dennis. Yeah. And I went in there, and it was like 4 o'clock, late in the day, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and that was my last stop for the day. And I went in, and Jerry's like, I don't need any money, but he's like, would you be opposed to driving to Sullivan? I was like, no. And he's like, well, my brother works over there. He owns a shop, and he needs a guy. Go talk to him. And so I hit 44, drove down to Sullivan, put my application in, and Dennis is like, let me think on it. I got home at 5 o'clock. He called me and said, you want a job? And I said, yeah. And he's like, when can you start? And I said, Monday. And he's like, all right, perfect. See you then. So I went in on Sunday, grabbed my toolbox from the other place, left the keys there, and said, see you later at that place. And whenever I started at Jerry's, Tim Cole was working there. He was painting there for a while, and Tim was actually a huge, I only worked there for a year, and he was just a huge inspiration for me in my life because he was doing what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a painter, and he did it exactly how I liked it. He's very particular about it. Wanted really, really clean jobs. We cleaned the booth every single day. And he just taught me how to do it right, and I appreciate it because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted clean paint jobs, nice, slick paint jobs, and that's what he strived for. And he really taught me the tedious stuff that you need to do, like just wearing a paint suit, wiping it down, wearing gloves, the importance of wearing the gloves and stuff, because there's some body shops where guys don't believe in wearing gloves. You know, your hands are dirty, clean them off with some lacquer thinner, just stuff like that. Don't wear a mask when you prime. It's not that much. And I care about my health. I own a gym. That was health and wellness was something that was really big in my life. And Tim was super friendly. Yeah. Didn't need to be as nice as he was. Super friendly. And he was the one that was like, Ryan, go somewhere else. Because I was getting paid bare minimum. He's like, go somewhere else. You can make some more money. You get in a shop that cares about you, wants you to be there. And I took that and ran from it there. But I remember seeing the stuff that, he showed me stuff that he painted before. And he told me about the shop he had. And I was like, yeah, I just got really lucky and met this dude that was super, super good painter. Yeah. And I took so much from him. So I would love to catch up with him one of these days too. But he probably don't even remember me. I was 21 years old. So
yeah, I'm sure he does. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is a great dude. Okay, so from there, now you got your body shops. You had your body shops for quite a while. Yeah. Did you go into anything else? Or is Gator Boats the next thing you end up buying?
I'm a silent partner in another business. I won't go into that one, but
sure.
It's just we've really kept a silent partnership. It's more like an investment opportunity that we had. So we're into that. We dabbled in a few other things, but nothing meaningful, nothing that really took off as far as I think the body shop was where that's do what you know. That's what I've always known.
That was your lane.
At the same time, I started really about the time that we opened up our first body shop, I think is when I bought my first jet boat.
Okay. Was it a Gator?
It was not. It was a Scorpion.
Scorpion.
Yeah, one of my best friends had bought 2 or 3 of them prior to that, and that was just I'd gotten to meet the owner of Scorpion, a guy named Mickey, and got to be friends with him, and I ended up buying a boat. That was my first one, and I painted it at my shop, my first shop in Pacific. It was the first jet boat that I'd painted, about the 3rd boat that I'd painted probably on my own at that point. And I fell in love with boats, at that point. That's when they really became an obsession more than anything.
Yeah. Now, is Scorpion and Gator the same hull or no?
No,
Totally different.
Yeah,
totally different.
boats. At that point, I really didn't know much about any of the brands. I really didn't know much about jet boats. You know, I was just getting into it. I thought my friend that bought his first one, I think he paid $16,500 for it at the boat show. It was like in '96, and I told him he was an idiot. You are an idiot for spending that much money on a riverboat. You know, who would ever spend that much money?
Did they paint them like they do now?
Yeah,
back then?
yeah.
Flames down the side,
Whatever you wanted,
all
really.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mickey was the first one to really start doing custom paint jobs on boats. You know, around here in the jet boat market.
Yeah.
Shoal Runner was the only other brand, and they were pretty plain Jane.
Shoal runners, same hull. Is Gator Boat? Do they share a hull with any other company? No, it's their own hull.
It's our own hull.
Okay. Has it always been like that?
It's always been that way. There have been some other boats that are very similar that kind of branched off with one of the builders around here. You know, so very similar designs to ours, but our boats have always been pretty distinct. You can tell one of our hulls.
Gotcha.
Through the years.
Now, you guys just buy the hull though, right?
We get the blank hulls, basically, a bare stripped out hull out of Canada from a company called Eagle.
Eagle. Okay. So they come all the way down from Canada.
Alberta,
now, yeah. That's awesome.
2,000 miles away.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I've gone up that way before, and I've asked people, I'm like, do you guys ever heard of Gator boats before? Because, yeah, it's just interesting to see because they come from Canada.
Yeah.
You know, so surely they know a little bit about it.
Unless you're in the jet boat world, I don't know that you would. We're not real global, I guess you'll say.
Yeah. Why not though? Why is it not a bigger thing?
You know, jet boating is. I think jet boating has gotten a lot of national attention in the last few years, really because of these mini boats that have kind of hit the market, and they're. I'm a huge fan. You know, I've got one myself. I think you're getting a lot more attention because of Cletus McFarland. You know, guys like that are on YouTube. You know, and YouTube videos have really exploded. Watching extreme jet boat stuff. You know, either our races like on the Snake River. You know, the long racing, or the mini boat stuff where you're just jumping logs and going through stupid,
people
crazy
love that.
water.
People call them dinghies, or are they different?
Just mini jets.
Mini jets.
They're just kind of known as a mini. You know, but that has really exploded the jet world. But really, prior to that, jets are a very small percentage of the boats that are out there. You know, most boats have props.
Yeah.
And jets really aren't well known.
Do you think there's a market for them to grow?
Oh,
I think so.
It's exponentially large. It's huge. You know? And I think with a lot of the attention that you're getting from social media,
it can really help it grow.
The growth is just. It's how much do you want to grow is the question. Not can you grow.
Right.
How big do you want to get?
Right. Yeah, because a jet boat is like the hot rod for the water.
It depends on what you want to do. I mean, we can do anything with them.
That's kind of, well, I guess that's how I look at it, you know, because I know a lot of guys put, you know, big beefed up V8 motors in them, turbo them, do all this stuff.
Yeah, we were testing our race boat this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just in my mind, like, cause I love hot rods, old cars, anything fast with a motor. That's me. Yeah. I've always been like that. And I just think about, I'm like, what, this is right down so many guys' alleys. You could build them in all kinds of directions.
You can build your own motor.
Yeah. You can build any motor you want and put into it. Yep. And guys do it all the time. And then you can put these pretty paint jobs on it. Who doesn't like being on the water in the summer? Like everybody loves that. It just has like anything about fun and enjoyment other than spending the money part of it. It just all runs together. But usually when you're out going and doing something fun, it costs some money.
It does.
It does.
Anything.
Yeah.
If it's cool, it costs money most of the time.
So let's talk about Gator boats.
All right.
Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah.
So how long you own it now?
Oh man, I don't know. May.
So,
yeah.
You bought out.
We officially took over in May.
Yeah. You bought Randy out.
I did.
And Randy Petzu was the previous owner.
Correct.
But you guys were just good friends.
We have been. We've been friends. Really, he built my first boat for me. in 2003. Yeah. So, but I met him in '02. I'd met him prior to that just a couple times, but didn't really know him that well. And strange circumstances of how we got to be friends. I had purchased a boat from Eagle out of Canada, kind of behind his back a little bit. We were going to try and put together a fast boat to go to races with Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of Scorpion and I had gotten to be pretty good buddies. And he was like, "This is the hull you want, blah, 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 blah." So I got the hull out of Canada, and shortly thereafter, Scorpion went out of business. And I had a bare hull sitting on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Had an issue, and I didn't know how to finish a boat out or anything. Really didn't know that much about boating. Ended up, I'd bought the wrong hull. But anyway, I just made a cold call to Randy, and I said, "This is my name. This is what I've got. Would you be interested in finishing the boat out for me?" And it was funny. He said, "Well, first of all, I know who you are, and I know about the boat." And
He already heard.
Oh, yeah, he knew as soon as it hit the ground. He had a friend that was a UPS driver or FedEx driver, one of the two. And as we were unloading it at the Scorpion lot, he was walking by it going, "That's an Eagle."
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't supposed to be able to get Eagles in the country. And now if you get an Eagle hull down here, it goes through us. We're a distributor for Eagle in the
Cool.
U.S. But anyway, he said, "Why don't you come out to my shop and we'll talk about this?" He said, "There's a few issues we need to talk about before I build you a boat." I said, "All right, what's it going to hurt?" So I went out there, and I walked into a shop, and there was about 8 dudes sitting there looking at me, waiting for me. And it was like after hours. And I thought, man, am I going to get my ass kicked here?
Yeah. Am I getting jumped? How old were you at this time, too?
I was 30, probably. Yeah, I was 31, somewhere in that
pretty
neighborhood,
young.
32. At that age, it was, that's a killer age. 31, my 30s were the best grade years, but you're cocky, you've got a little bit of, charisma sometimes. You've been out there, you got beaten up a little bit, you know how to do things. 30s are good years, but I walked into that meeting and he said, "All right, why'd you get that boat? Why didn't you come through us?" And I said, "Good friend of mine and I were going to try and build a boat, and he owned a boat company, and it just didn't work out." And we talked, and ended up at the end of the night, he's like, "Well, let us talk as a group, because we're a pretty tight little group here, and we'll let you know." All right. So he called me back the next day. He goes, "Here's the deal. I'll finish your boat out, but it has to have Gator on the side of it, and a few stipulations." No problem,
Yeah, easy.
So he started building the boat, and as a matter of fact, Tim Cole did a lot of the airbrush work on the boat for me on that one.
Cool.
And as we were building the boat, I got to know Randy's mom and dad a little bit, his dad especially, and they had a place up at Gascony Village, which is up by Herman.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom said, "You guys need to come up and get a place up there," because we were releasing a place down on the Gasconade in Vienna at the time. And she said, "Why don't you come up this weekend and we'll show you around?" And my wife and I didn't have anything going on, so we headed up there and met Randy's mom and dad, and had a few beers with them, and they showed us around the place up there. And his mom was pretty dead set we were going to buy the place straight across from him. And we ended up buying that, and so I bought a boat from Randy and bought a house or a little place up at Gascony Village right across the street from him. So we were neighbors, and every weekend, and just ended up being really, really close friends.
Cool.
He's
still got a place out there, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he's actually next door to my old place. He moved across the street from his, but that's how I really got to know Randy real well, and John Licklider that works there as well. John has a place there too, and John and Terry and Randy and Brenda, and our kids kind of grew up, running around playing together, and we just had a lot of fun up there. And then we started racing together, and so to answer your question, yeah, Randy and I have been friends for a long time.
So did you approach him about buying it, or did he approach you?
It was one of those things where I wasn't really necessarily in the market to start a boat company, but the mini market really I liked it a lot. And there was another company that had shut down, and I thought, man, somebody needs to really jump into that arena. And I had a lot of cool ideas that in my mind are just sitting there swirling. And at the other side of it was, there's no way in the world I would ever open up a boat company with one of my closest friends owning a boat company. It'd be a competition for him. So that was just something I wouldn't do. And got about 3 or 4 really good friends that I was just bouncing these ideas off of. And every one of my confidants, because you need those in life. You need the people that you feel secure with, that can give you good advice, and you can confide in them, and they're not going to tell everybody else about your business.
Yeah.
You need those folks.
Someone that you can reach out to and say, I have this idea.
I'm going to bounce this off.
Yeah. Do you think this is a good idea, or is this just something crazy?
And you want the guy that says, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Run from that.
Yeah.
You don't want the guy that says yes to everything.
Yeah.
So I bounced
someone that's going to tell you how it is.
And I started bouncing that off of my peer group, I'll call it. And every one of them said the same thing. You need to go talk to Randy, because at that point, Randy, he was getting a lot of cattle, and he really, I think for about 2 or 3 years, he'd been kind of thinking, how can I sell this business, and
who can I sell it to?
Yeah,
it's going to do it justice.
He had built this thing, and he did not want it to fail. So there were probably there was a short list of people he probably would have ever sold it to.
Yeah.
So we went out. We were testing a new boat that they'd built for a customer of ours, and I wanted to drive it because it had a new power plant that we'd never used before. It was Rotax was the brand, and it was the first one. So, man, the second it hit the water, I wanted to see what it was like, because I had ideas for these other smaller boats. So we took it out. Me, Johnny, and Randy took it out for the test drive, and took a cooler with us. And by the time we got back to the boat ramp, we were talking about me buying the boat company from him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then shortly after, you ended up buying it.
Yeah, it's on my end, we drug it out a long time because of, you got to figure out how to work financing. Because when you buy a new business, especially an existing business, there's a lot of stuff that you can't put a dollar on. So the bank has to be able to justify that. So
yes, are you talking like just blue sky stuff?
Blue sky. Blue sky is not financeable. So you have to figure out how to make things work.
And then Gator Boats, their blue sky is everything. Not everything, but a big portion of it.
Yeah, a portion of it. And that's tough, because you've got to somehow justify, either have the money sitting there to say, here's all this money, or if you're going to do your financing, you got to figure out how to justify that with the bank so that the bank is comfortable, so they can make that loan for you. So that takes some time, and again, equity.
Yeah, you have some leverage to be able to pull on. Having all the body shops and to have the knowledge, already, basically how to run it. I'm sure there's lots of things. There's a learning curve with everything. But you already knew how to paint stuff. You had booths. You understood that atmosphere. There's probably stuff to learn, but you honestly, it falls right down your alley. It's exactly
really
what
is. It's cars and boats aren't really that much different in my view. They have motors, they have drivetrains, they have paint, they have steering wheels, they have this and that. They're all about the same. It's just one floats, one runs on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one's a lot cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah, opinion based, but it's Gator Boats are huge. I know so many people that love them. Yeah, and I know the price of them going up too. Can we talk about pricing? What's one cost new now? If someone wanted to buy a brand new hull, paint it, let's just say, not the cheapest paint job, but just like an average paint job. Let's say just like an LS platform motor, and just the basics. What's something like that cost? When someone's going to need to go to the bank and ask for some money? What are they going to need to ask?
You're going to start around 60 now.
60s,
high 50s, low 60s, and then from there, it's sky's the limit.
Because you can just keep adding stuff on. It's like building a car. You can just keep adding and adding and adding.
You can buy a $50,000 motor if you need to. So.
Yeah. But they hold their value good, right?
They don't just hold their value. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, they appreciate.
Very well.
I've never seen anything else, and it's just not just our brand. The other brands as well. The values of them just keep going up and up and up. I'm seeing boats that I remember. The price tags up, like maybe because I built it or bought the boat new or whatever. I sold it new, whatever. I'm seeing those boats selling for way more than that now. 10 grand more than what it sold for new.
I've heard of that a lot of times.
16-year-old boats. It's like, wow, this is really crazy.
Yeah.
It's a weird market.
It is kind of crazy because I never got into it because I got really big into, well, I grew up poor, so I didn't have the money to buy it when I was younger anyway. But whenever I finally started making enough money where I could put a payment on one and be able to enjoy one, I got to the point where I read this book actually, Rich Dad Poor Dad. You ever heard of that book? Anything like that? So he talked really big about assets and liabilities. And if you're trying to build some wealth, you can't buy a bunch of liabilities. And so anything that cost me money was a liability to me. Yeah. My house here is a liability. I myself am a liability. I don't cash flow any money myself. I have everything I have has to cash flow the money. So I always looked at it as a liability. But the more people I talk to that have Gator boats, I don't know a single person that I've ever talked to has ever lost $1 on a boat. And to have something that you can buy, drive, own for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and make 5, 10, 20 grand on it after it is amazing. That's a good investment when you can enjoy it.
I think a lot of it stems around supply and demand as well. There's not a big supply of them. There's not a lot out there. The used market doesn't hardly exist. If one comes up for sale, it's gone pretty quick. And right now, there's a waiting list just to get a new boat. If you ordered a new boat right now, you're getting close to 2 years away before you see the new boat.
Whoa,
it's that crazy.
Is there plans to
expand
work on
production?
That? Yeah,
there is.
Yeah, because there's a value in having a limited source. So
sure, there is.
Because if you mass produce some like cars, the value is going to go down.
Right.
So that it does help that there is a limited number of them out there, but a 2-year wait time shows that the demand's there.
Yeah.
So is there plans to grow that? Yeah, for production.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming out with a couple of new lines right now. I've got 2 boats in production. One is a mid-size boat, I'll call it. It's not really a mini. It's not a full-size boat. It's right there in between. We've got the first one just came out of paint. It's going to be on the Rotax package platform.
Which power. What's that mean? Rotax?
It's a 300 horse supercharged Bombardier motor. So if you went out and you bought the baddest jet ski you can get, that's what it's going to have in it. It's a 300 horse, 3-cylinder supercharged, mean little motor.
So bigger than a mini.
Yeah.
But smaller than
16-foot running surface.
How much?
16 foot.
16 foot. Yeah. What's a tunnel hole?
A tunnel hole? 21. 21.
Okay. That's what like is really popular, right?
Our 2060 is what it's called. It's kind of it's just normal, more of a show runner style. It's a open platform.
Fit a family on it.
2 consoles, 1 console, sometimes a bench seat. That's our most popular model.
Because you can fish off of them. You can
do whatever.
Cruise.
They go anywhere. Most of them are V8s. We're now adapting them to the Rotax package.
Is there why go that over a V8?
Weight.
Oh, they're lighter.
Yeah, the whole thing weighs 194 pounds.
Yeah, I just like V8s because I like the way they sound.
They sound cool.
Yeah, they sound cool. And I feel like I'm confident enough working on other cars. I've done LS swaps and just worked on motors in the past that I think if I bought one and it broke down, I could figure out how to fix it.
That's the beauty of a lot of our boats.
Yeah. But the Rotex one, I'm like, I would be...
You got to have a laptop.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. See, that'd be tough.
Yeah. A lot of our motors and our new applications we've got to go to the laptop.
People are going away from the carburetors.
Can't get them anymore.
Can't get the carburetors anymore?
In the OEM world, if we order a new motor from our motor provider, company that we get all of our stuff from, it's a company called Marine Power. They don't even offer a carbureted package anymore. It's all fuel injected.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
It's finally come.
Yeah.
And now you can still build your own motor and put a carb on it. I test drove one that we've got ready. The guy's picking it up here in a couple of days. 700 horse, nasty little 572, and took it out. It's a really fun boat.
Yeah, I bet. Now, so people can have the option to, if they want to build a boat, they can choose to build it without a motor, and you can put the motor in it for them.
Yeah.
Is that always going to be an option, you think? Or you think one day with production, the way it grows, it would just get to the day where it's like,
I don't
we can't
know
take
the
motor.
answer to that question. I would like to say that as a company, to grow, if I wanted to get big, I think you would have to go away from that.
Yeah.
Or you would have to have a custom division where you just did that
Special
on the
order.
I think in this business, especially with these boats and our market, I think that's always going to be a part of our business. Custom builds. That's how these boats have grown. They're just one-off customs, every one of them. The owner builds it, designs it, and we put it together for them.
Is the drivetrain much simpler than a car? Because you don't have taillights, you don't have axles, you don't have
Yeah,
all that
it's
extra.
basically we bolt a motor in these things and put a drive shaft on it and hook it up to a jet pump. But that sounds really simple, but to get it to work, that's a lot
all
of
into.
R&D. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. There are a lot of jet boat folks out there, but ours, Randy really focused on speed. We wanted to have the fastest boats out there. And when I started racing, gosh, that was like probably 2 or 3 years into it. I think I had my first boat for a year, and then I ordered my first tunnel because I wanted to go, I was Ricky Bobby. I want to go fast kind of thing. And then I ordered my first tunnel, and it was a full size, and then I figured out that I couldn't win races with that. It was fast, top end, but I wasn't going to take off like I needed to. So then the next year I ordered a lightweight race tunnel, and that's where I really dove into the speed part of it. So probably 06 or 07, something like that, Randy and I started racing together, as a team. And man, we've gone from 100 mile an hour we hit 100 mile an hour kind of thing, like that's awesome, to now we've got one that's hit 142.
Whoa.
So those are big gains.
Can you do that on the river?
That's where
you're doing it at.
Yeah,
that's where you're doing it. There comes a point when you go so fast, when you're getting so fast, you're going to have to go to a lake though, right? No?
To race or long distance?
I'm thinking like racing I guess you get to 140 probably pretty quick.
Oh, that's within 500, 600 feet.
Yeah. So it doesn't take much of a straight stretch.
No, we race 800 feet.
Yeah. So
we've got some races here in a couple of weeks. This morning we were tuning the race boat, just, getting things dialed in for that race.
So someone's wanting to race, like someone's wanting a boat to go quick. What's the go-to? Not motor wise. I'm talking
the hull.
A tunnel hull.
Yeah.
16 footer.
No. 21 foot.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's a 21 foot, and we call it a narrow. We have two options. You can build a wider tunnel hull, a little more family friendly. You can put a bench seat in it, and it's like a family truckster that will go 110 mile an hour. Or we've got just pretty much the smaller, sleeker, narrower, all-out race boats. You can get it in a lightweight package. We've got one coming down from Canada on our next load. Good customer of ours and friend is building one.
So that's the one you want.
If you want to go fast, that's the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely the boat.
That's cool. I'm sure somebody will take that information and use it one day.
In the jet boat world, I would throw this out there. In 800 feet, I don't think there's another boat that will touch ours.
Really?
I don't. In the aluminum jet boat world. Get into fiberglass, that's a little different arena. But
you're saying yours in particular, like the one Lance owns, or are you talking that style one?
Our current race boat, Blake Goodman is the owner of it. A real good friend of ours, customer, actually cousin of mine as well, to my wife. But Blake's boat's one that he's kind of our
guinea pig?
Our race
test guy.
What's that?
Is he like, you guys go to him to help build a boat, or what?
It's a team effort. Whenever I got out of racing personally, 15 was my last race that I ran the tunnel hull class. Had an accident, and Randy's wife told me I couldn't race anymore, and my wife told me I was kind of done. And
Sure.
so
Sure, it's scary.
I got out of it, and Blake was building his boat at the time, and we just kind of, and we were going to focus on his anyway. We focused on his boat as our company boat, you know. So the race team, I didn't own the company at the time, but I kind of morphed into, you know, helping with that boat, trying to get it to go fast. So we took it, and it's been a learning curve because the motor that Blake built for it was just, it's a monster. So we've really had challenges even keeping the boat in the water. You know, it wants to fly.
And a lot of that stuff comes down to just tuning too.
It's just so tedious, and such minor little adjustments make big differences. So a lot of R&D, a lot of that didn't work. Crap.
Yeah.
Back to the drawing board, you know.
Learn again.
Yeah.
Learn.
That boat, which I'll call it's Blake's boat, but I'll call it our factory team boat. I don't know of another boat in the country in 800 feet that could race with us.
Wow.
Now, there's faster on the top end. Some of the Salmon River guys and the guys that run these big, you know, races where there's a series of them where they'll have to do like 4 runs, and they may run 10 miles, and it's all by time. Same hulls.
Yeah.
It's an Eagle hull, but some of those guys are running in the 160 range.
But that's a different atmosphere.
Yeah,
you guys are basically drag strips.
We're drag racing. They're long distance. It takes them forever to even get on plane to take off. Where we're at 140 mile an hour and 500-600 feet.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you plan on keeping, because you guys have the races over in St. Clair?
Yeah, and they're at some other good friends. I'll put a plug in for them. Highway 30 Outfitters. Jimmy and Mandy Williams just bought that property here not too long ago. Used to be called Frog's Landing, I think. It's kind of been the name of it forever. But
where's that at?
It's right there where old Highway 30 used to cross over the Merrimack River. And it's a campground, and we've had the races there now for probably about 6, 7, 8 years. I don't even remember how long now. But
that's not far out of St. Clair, right?
It's just right outside of town.
Cool.
And September 10th and 11th, we have the inboard races are on Saturday, and then the outboard races are on Sunday. And it's a good time. I mean, if folks don't have anything going on, or if you don't have anything going on, you ought to come out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you don't have to have a boat to come and watch.
No, you just come. It's all from the shore. You're not even allowed to have a boat in the water.
And like, what's it cost to get in?
I think it's like $25 to get in, and man, it's worth it.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of vendors there. They're going to have food trucks and
some merchandise, T-shirts, hats.
We're all going to have merchandise. Gator's going to have a lot of stuff there. Hydra Seams is going in with the booth with us. There'll be a lot of vendors there, you know, selling merchandise, and just it's a cool environment. Plus, you get to see some really badass boats racing all day long.
Yeah, pretty cool, fast, loud, everything.
It's my favorite day of the year, most of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's something you plan on keeping in for as long as you can.
You know, I don't think with this company, I don't know how big we're going to get. You know, I have ideas, but who knows? In the end, I think we're always going to be, speed is going to be part of our DNA. You know, that's how we've, as a company, how this has grown and become so known, I think, is because we've kind of known we have the fastest boats out there.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of how Ford came up?
What's that?
Isn't that kind of how the Ford company came up when they started their production, and then they wanted to get into the racing world?
Yeah.
And so they built the Shelby.
Yeah.
And they started racing the Shelby, and it was, I mean, not exactly, but it's kind of similar to
you know, the old adage of win on Sunday, sell on Monday. You know, it's kind of rings true in our arena a little bit. You know, we build a really good quality boat. Randy's always done that. You know, he's a nut about just making sure everything's perfect on a boat before it leaves. You get that kind of reputation, and you're the fastest thing out there. Boats really kind of sell themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be fast for me. It's pretty.
Yeah.
The people put some pretty paint jobs on it, and then they float them down the water. Look so good. And it's like, man, I want one of them.
I like that part of it. I mean, I think I've probably got 120, 130 paint jobs that I've done on them out there. But just Rodney over at Pro Body Works does the bulk of the boats, and they do a great job on this stuff. St. Clair Auto Body, they do some really great work on them. So we're fortunate to have some a lot of good companies here locally.
So you don't paint all your boats?
I don't.
Is that something you plan on doing in the future, or you keep it how it is?
I don't. That's just part of the process, and that's another business in itself. It really is. We do still paint some of them. I painted a couple this weekend. One of them was my good friend John Licklider that works with us.
Oh, his daughters.
His daughters.
Yeah.
And just one of those things we all collaborated. We got together. We had a bear haul on Friday night, and on Sunday we took it to the shop. It was painted.
Cool.
So.
How long before it can go on the water? Because you can bake it, but should you put it on the water that soon?
Well, it's a bear haul, so
it'll just sit for a while.
In it. Well, yeah, it'll be a couple weeks probably, but
yeah, plenty of time to dry.
Yeah,
go in the water. But I mean, the season's kind of ending. It's coming towards the close
soon. Yeah.
So
it depends. A lot of people stop at Labor Day. We keep going. We boat all winter.
Yeah. Well, I think actually now that you say that, I remember seeing, because we're friends on Facebook, I remember seeing you go out there when it was cold, super cold.
I'm addicted to the stuff. And then I'm lucky to have a handful of friends that are just as addicted as I am.
Yeah.
Probably worse, a couple of them.
Yeah.
There's a buddy of mine named Andrew Zeller. I think he's got it worse than I do. He wants to go boating every day.
Cool.
So it's fun. We boat all winter long, and we've learned to adapt with clothing and windshield boats. And
you just like to cruising?
I just like boating, man.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You don't do no fishing off of or nothing like that?
I'm not a big fisherman, but I do fish some. I think really my biggest fun factor that I've had in boats in a long time is these minis.
Oh, yeah, going out, jumping logs, things like that.
Taking creeks and rivers that you've never been up. You don't know what's around the corner.
Too narrow, like real narrow ones, shallow ones.
Stupid narrow, no water, jumping rocks, jumping logs. I mean, we take chainsaws with us.
To clear some paths if you need to.
Yeah, it's nuts. And,
that is nuts.
We're going, this weekend, we've got an adventure planned on the Burbus.
Cool. I was just about to ask you, because when you say shallow water, narrow, these kind of things, I was thinking the Burbus. Because what's the shallowest, skinniest Burbus around, or river around? I think of the Burbus.
It's one of them. Yeah, and it's still navigable, kind of. It's been about 3 weeks ago probably now. There was a group of, I think 5 of us went out, 5 or 6 of us, 5 I think boats. And we took off from 185 Bridge, Devil's back there. You know where that's at?
Is that outside of Beaufort?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we took off from there, and I think we ran like 25 miles upriver.
Wow.
It was brutal.
Now, upriver would be like towards Randy's, like towards the Sullivan area, Strange Japan area out there.
Yeah. We went about 5 miles past Winkle Ford.
Yeah,
where that's at.
Okay, yeah. So did you go up to Mill Rock then? Did you make it to Mill Rock?
We did not make it to Mill Rock. We ended up turning around at I forget what bridge it was, but we ended up turning around there and coming back down. But because we were really out of time, it took us almost 10 hours, 9.5 hours to run
round trip.
Yeah.
Wow.
Up and back.
That's a long time to be out on a boat.
It was a great day though. I mean, we literally probably drugged the boats for 3 hours because you get stuck. That's just part of it.
Yep. Now, how do you not get rocks sucked up in there and things like that?
You do.
It's just part of it.
That's just part of it.
It's part of it.
Most of us have stomp grates on the back of them, so like if it gets stuck in the grate, we can just hit this big lever on the back of it. Some of the guys have like air actuated ones where it's an air, it kicks them out, and it separates the grate and the rocks fall out. And if a rock goes through it, it'll spit it out the back most of the time.
Now those minis, are they light enough to pick up and move?
You can't pick them up and move them. No, you have to drag them, and it takes 4 guys.
You can't go out and do this alone.
If you had a winch, you could. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of our latest boats it's getting a winch put in it right now.
Cool. So it'll be built into it?
Yeah, it's going to be built into the deck.
Just the minis, though?
No, this is a full-size boat. It's our new 21-foot, low-profile, super shallow running boat.
What's something like that weigh?
The boats weigh, on average, somewhere in the 1,800, 2,000 pound range. 25 for, some of them. It just depends on how you
build a motor and everything.
Yeah, well, batteries, trolling motors,
Yeah.
Decking, all that stuff.
Yeah. Still pretty light, though.
Yeah.
Pretty light.
Compared to equal fiberglass boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. I think that's cool. I think that's I think that right there is just kind of helping keep moving in the forward direction.
The industry is, that market of the industry is exploding right now, and I think there's a struggle right now because there's such a demand for it, and there's a lot of small builders springing up all over the place, like guys starting it out of their garage, or guys that are, starting to buy kits from one guy and weld them up and sell them as a bare hull, that type of thing. And it's a great market, and I think there's going to be a little time frame here where, till the dust settles, there's always going to be a couple bigger brands that are well known out there.
Yeah, a new company, they're going to have a little bit of catching up to do. They're going to try to make it to Gator Boats.
That's not our market, though. That mini market's never been this market. So in the mini market, we're a new player too.
Oh, really?
We've got a 14-footer coming out this fall. We'll have the first one out. We're going to jump into that arena pretty big.
When you say new, but new like 10 years old, though, right?
What's that?
Like the minis? Gators have minis for a while.
Yeah, well, I would tell you in this area, Gator was probably one of the first ones to have what you would consider a mini with what the model is called an extreme. And it's a 17.
Yes, that's right. That's what I remember.
Boat. And I forget what year. It was the year that I can't remember what year it was, but Randy and them went up and they visited Alberta up to Eagle and went out with the guys that owned it and spent a couple of days on the water playing in these boats. And they all come back and ordered these hulls.
Yeah.
And they were coming back and jumping stuff, and we were like, "Wow, this is cool."
Yeah.
But they're such a deep V boat. They're a 20-degree V, so they'll go shallow, but you got to be hauling the mail. And some of the newer technology and newer designs, the flatter it is, the more displacement you've got. You're going to go through shallower stuff, and you can go slower.
So you guys have they've moved on from the extreme.
Yeah.
Now you guys got something else. What's the new one's called? They're just called mini jets?
We haven't really even named the boat yet. It's just it's coming.
Cool.
We've got a new design, and we've been working with our Canadian friends up at Eagle, designing a couple of new boats. We've got a new wakeboard boat coming out that's going to be a monster. This one's going to be a big boat, 78-inch bottom on it.
Whoa.
8-inch or 8-degree bottom, so it'll be on the Merrimack. It's going to be its home water. Great big boat.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that is pretty cool. I think we should probably wrap it up because I think we're about an hour and 20 in.
Oh, no kidding.
I try not to. Yeah, they go pretty quick.
Yeah, they do.
And I've had some that I just like keep going and going and going. Yeah. Some people really like it when I just let them go. But I try to just stay in my realm too because I got to edit them all. Yeah. So like on an hour and a half video, it takes me at least 3 hours to edit it all. So I try to, for my sake too, I try to keep it pretty condensed. But before you go, can I get you to sign my banner? Yeah. Sign Gator Boats and sign your name. Sign your buy shops too if you want. It don't matter to me, but at least your name and Gator Boats because that's definitely your newest adventure. And I'm really interested to see where Gator Boats is going to go now.
I'm excited too. We've got some ideas, and we're going to try a few different things, and it's going to grow. I just don't know the directions it can go. There's a different
how much,
and how big we're going to go.
And if you guys are listening, is it GatorBoats.com? Where's the best place to find you guys to follow along? Facebook?
Facebook is probably our biggest market right now as far as media coverage, social media, and we're going to be expanding that. It's going to take me a little bit of time to settle in the seat first, but I would tell you that video-wise, once these minis start coming out, we're going to start
producing some content with it.
Yeah, we're going to have some really cool media.
Do you guys have a YouTube channel?
We're going to.
Yeah, YouTube is going to be a big one.
It's going to be. It's huge.
Yeah.
And that's where this market really is going to grow because the people that you're marketing to are really into those arenas. They're watching that stuff. They can't get enough of it. Mm-hmm. Most of the mini builders, the bigger ones, they're like us now.
I think there's unlimited content you could have with a YouTube channel because not only just like out driving the boats and showing them what they're capable of, but I think it'd be really cool to see like a behind the scenes of like where the boats, when they come in and they're getting taken off the truck, and all the way to where you guys bring them in, you guys are prepping them, getting them ready for paint, getting them ready for the motor, wiring them all that content. I know I would like to watch.
There's a huge market for all that stuff. You know, people are just starved to death for cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't. There's cool stuff every market. You know, body shops, hot rods, boats, whatever. There's a lot of cool stuff to see.
Absolutely. So check them out on Facebook.
Yeah.
GatorBoats.com. Or is there a GatorBoats.com?
GatorJetboats.com.
GatorJetboats.com. GatorBoats at Facebook. Is there an Instagram page?
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Going to get an Instagram page.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, because I post content every day for my business. That's something I've really gotten into. I think it's really important. I think it's just important to stay in the algorithm, stay relevant, and always have it rotated in there. And I've noticed that since I started doing it on Instagram as much as my Instagram is really starting to grow a lot.
It's those two just work together so well.
Yeah.
They really do. I've got a personal web Instagram page, and just a paint job on there. I can post a paint job, and it's amazing how many people see that.
Yeah.
You know, and we posted, I'll tell you this, you know, for marketing purposes, we've got a new boat coming out. It's called a Recon, and it's a 16-footer, and it's an open bow. It's like not a mini. It's not a full size. This is right in the middle, and it's a neat boat. I posted pictures of it when it hit the ground right off the trailer. I posted pictures of it one time intentionally at 11:30 on Friday night. All right, let's see who's watching. I got up the next morning, and at 8 o'clock I looked. I had 87 messages.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I was like, what in the hell? And it's just, hey, what's this new boat? You know, blah, blah, blah. And I bet for the next 2 weeks at the shop, the phone didn't quit ringing. And I posted one picture at 11:30 at night on Facebook.
That's beautiful.
To me, that's just crazy, you know. And from that, I think we've sold like 12 or 13 of those boats. And I literally have not intentionally kind of posted pictures because we want to get the first build done to see, you know, what all it's going to take and what if and any all changes we need to make to the hull. So I really haven't promoted this boat at all, and it's already taken off like crazy.
Is it a tunnel or a?
No, it's a
open.
shallow running, almost a flat bottom, open bow, sporty looking boat.
Okay, 2 seats. Console in the front with a bench in the back.
It'll be a 4-seater. This first one, it'll have 4 buckets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, go check that out on his Instagram. Go check it out on his Facebook. Keep watching, you guys.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe because that helps me grow too. And Lance, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it.
No problem.